So our next community update is from Dr. Rachel Klima from APL, who will be giving a talk on Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium. Rachel, thanks for your leadership for that. And thank you also for participating in the Survey Executive Committee. We've been trying to increase the size of the tent to bring everyone together to share information. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it's great to be back. So I'm going to talk about the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium, which is, it's an effort within the overarching, it's not a program, but initiative called the Lunar Surface Innovation Initiative, which is something that comes from the Space Technology Mission Directorate and is kind of like a parallel effort to what's going on here. And I'm really excited that Greg invited me to come speak to you, because I think what we need to do is try to foster as much crosstalk between the scientists and the technology community as possible. So even though a lot of our day-to-day conversations center around technology, everyone in this room has a wealth of experience in analyzing the lunar data, working with the lunar data, understanding the lunar environment. And we're trying to help the commercial community and technology developers really understand and benefit from all that wealth of experience as they go forward, because we've heard previously with NASA, this sustained presence on the lunar surface, the anticipation is that this is going to have many stakeholders. It's not just going to be NASA. So we need commercial investments, we need commercial involvement, but we want to get this dialogue going so that we can help inform them and be a part of that. So LSII is really focused on the technology maturation. So getting from the, they invest across the entire technology spectrum, but they really are keen on getting people over that hump into actually deploying things. So we talk a lot about things like flight demonstrations, testing environments, those kind of things, which, many of the survey nodes have great experience in that and do participate with us. But I hope as you hear this talk that some of you will be inspired to join us and to come share your expertise. Going to move on so I don't end up running out of time. But yeah, so really LSIC is the part of this that is really our conduit for continued discussions with the STMD leadership so that they can understand what technology to invest in, because they're a relatively, well, I don't want to say small, but they are a wedge of NASA that has to work very carefully to make the smartest investments that they can to push us towards this this sustained presence on the lunar surface. All right. Oh dear, did I have one? Oh, I solved it myself. All right. Awesome. So what is LSIC? LSIC is it's a consortium that we've invited academia, government, industry, nonprofits to come together and have this ongoing discussion with NASA. We have over 500 organizations, and we get together and we try to meet regularly. We meet twice a year as a full consortium, and then we have ongoing dialogues through these 6 focus areas that are under the LSII umbrella, which I will go through in a lot more detail. And we're working very hard to take the strategic documents that have been put together by League, by other, even global communities, and to look at the common technical gaps and help people understand that so that they can be making investments towards trying to close these. We're also trying to help centralize some of the resources to that tech community. So we've got a website where we try to point out to the League website, point out to some of these other websites that are out there, as well as trying to fill in places where there might be gaps. So especially STMD has kind of a different funding paradigm, it feels like to me, at least as a scientist, than we do. So trying to help people understand what's the difference between a challenge and like a more standard grant, and how they can participate with that, especially the commercial community who may completely not be familiar with proposing to NASA at all. And then another thing that's incredibly important to me is, and to the entire group, is trying to broaden this involvement, because as Jay mentioned at the beginning and Greg has mentioned throughout, we want the whole country and the whole world to be able to be involved in this return to the moon if they want to be. So we want to have representation, and we do have folks from the consortium in all states. We have folks throughout the world. But we want to reach out to tech companies that maybe haven't thought about going into space, that have robotics or AI or other things that might help benefit us, but bring in new participants to the community from a more diverse community outside of the lunar community. I'm saying community a million times. That's awesome. All right. So anyway, as I mentioned previously, we try to have this ongoing dialogue. So we have a newsletter that goes out once a month and tries to familiarize folks with what's going on throughout the lunar community, as well as the tech community. And then we have these ongoing meetings, workshops, and focus group telecon meetings where we have a lot of networking. So the commercial community, as you saw in the previous slide, make up quite a large proportion of the LSIC community, and they need to get to know, who's out there in academia, who's out there in government that they might want to partner with. The other things that we've got, so we've done some analyses on the different simulants that are out there, because for those in this room, everyone knows very clearly what some of the shortfalls are in trying to simulate the lunar environment. And it's very difficult to have like a ton of simulant that perfectly chemically simulates the lunar surface. But depending on what you're doing, maybe you need something that's better physically, maybe something that's better chemically. So we're trying to help the tech community understand which simulants to choose for their different purposes. And then finally, we try to have ongoing dialogue throughout the focus groups and through a wiki collaboration space. So the 6 focus groups that we're divided into include in situ resource utilization, extreme access, excavation and construction, dust mitigation, surface power, and in extreme environments. And for folks in research, kind of extreme environments is probably, and dust mitigation would be a lot of overlap probably with a lot of the work that you're doing and where we could use a lot of expertise. But I'm going to walk through each of these and the goals that they have and some of the findings that they've had over the last year of meetings. So starting with extreme access includes robotics, it includes in fact, I'll go ahead to this. Things like terrain relative navigation, a lot of like using the maps that many of us in this room have made over the years. So mobility, communications, positions, navigation, and timing. And what that community has been up to over the last year. So they had a workshop about a year ago in the spring on precision mapping and identified a lot of gaps between what industry thought was missing and what we actually have, and trying to stimulate more discussion between the groups in that. And then they've been working a lot on trying to understand where we don't have things like, for instance, the thermal systems for mobility are not meeting some of the requirements for long durations. And I'm like Carly, I don't want to talk through every word on this, but I wanted it to be in the record so that folks can look at some of the activities that are ongoing. Excavation and construction is looking at the actual building of some of the infrastructure on the lunar surface, as well as maintenance and repair. And in fact, for that first year, they really wanted to focus on this like repair and outfitting as we start to build up things on the lunar surface. So in infrastructure, things like autonomous construction, 3D printing of materials on the lunar surface and whatnot. And one of the things both they and the ISRO group have focused a lot on is trying to understand, there seems to be this future economy that NASA and the community talks about, but how do we understand the real like supply and demand drivers for that? So they've had discussions about the users of materials and the providers of materials to understand and help build confidence that this is not just talk and dreams, that we really have like potential for this to become a major aspect of the return to the moon. I'm suspecting that I'm getting close to out of time. So dust mitigation is kind of self-explanatory, but they've been discussing a lot of things like seals and really dust mitigation, not with respect to humans so much, but more with the technologies and what do we need to do to ensure that robotic technology on the surface is safe and not going to be breaking down due to the dust. And also, how are we affecting the dust environment as we start to build infrastructure on the lunar surface? Surface power, again, is sort of self-explanatory. A lot of the foci that they have had over the last year are things like rad hard electronics. NASA's trying to make a lot of investments in power transmission and storage because, we know different modes to create power, but we want to be able to transport it. Cabling is not a great solution. So we had a power beaming workshop. And they're really, one of the big things that the power community is really concerned about is interoperability, because we'll have many international and national stakeholders ultimately. Extreme environments is basically this overarching, what are these environments that the different technology areas need to pay attention to? So the radiation environment, the regolith, the plasma environment, thermal and whatnot. So that a lot of the work for this group goes on in subgroups that are community led. So if you see anything on that list that you would like to join in on, we would love to have you join our groups and our discussions. They have recently been doing a lot more cross focus area meetings so that they can come in and say, okay, we're going to talk to the core ISRU folks and try to, provide our expertise. Actually, rad hard power electronics was one of the key crosstalks that they had to help define the requirements that the power group needs to be designing to. I left ISRU, I think, to the last, but ISRU has focused on both water and oxygen creation from, either from just extracting water or from using silicates to produce oxygen. And like I said, they really have been trying to understand the supply and demand case, because all of the other, especially like extreme access, there's very clear crossover technologies between Earth and the moon, whereas ISRU is a community that really needs that lunar case in order for companies to be engaged and see value in investing in this. So we really need to help them understand what the value will be down the line. So they've conducted a couple of these supply and demand workshops and have been really trying to build the networking among their members. So in addition to ongoing monthly meetings between all of these focus groups, we do these workshops. Some of them are like cross focus group workshops. Some are specific to a key technology in any of those. And everything that we've done is available on our website. So since I do suspect that I'm running low on time.
Just 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. I will focus on this one for just a minute. In fact, this is my last one. So I invite folks to sign up for LSIC. And if you sign up, you'll get the newsletter about what's going on. And then you can join in with the focus groups. But we tried to provide a mode to participate asynchronously because basically everyone has way too many meetings right now. Oh my God. Too many Zoom meetings, too many ongoing things. So we try to capture things in a way that you can go back and look at them and pick out the items that are relevant and still get involved with the community and help them understand the science side of what all of this that they're working towards. One of the new kind of LSIC and outside of LSIC activities that we have going on is looking at MOSA, which is Modular Open Systems Approach. So looking at, how can it be like, I think one of the folks presenting it at our spring meeting said like Legos, where you just can plug in your tech into something, and everyone knows what's the standard and you can just mix and match. And it's like very, very easily, you can easily swap things out and you've got a mission going and you can just pop it in and go. So what do we need to standardize first to ensure interoperability, and those kind of discussions are going on in this working group. And then finally, we have our fall meeting scheduled for November 2nd to 3rd at University of Texas at El Paso and also online. We also are trying to keep everything as hybrid because the accessibility to folks over the last 2.5 years has really enabled so much more participation. It's really fantastic. So I will end there. Thank you very much.
Thanks for an awesome talk, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Doing a fabulous job with LSIC, and we're happy to be a part. And she participates in our ECs. I participate in her ECs. We're trying to cross-pollinate as much as we possibly can.